day to you. Now today it's all about duality. Happy versus sad, light versus dark, good versus evil and fake versus real. Now if you're new to the channel, my name is Rob and I make guitar tutorials about more advanced subjects for guitar. Now in music we have scales that sound pretty straightforward, right? Like major scales, minor scales, pentatonic scales. They are the familiar sounds of our Western music. And there are special scales, and sometimes very special scales. Now today we're looking at one of the most fascinating scales out there and a secret weapon for many film composers. It is the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. It's mysterious, it's emotional, and it is exotic. It's all those things in one, and it manages to sound both bright and dark at the same time. And today is the day that you learn all about the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. And you'll never be the same. The way we will explore the scale is by looking at the theory, the names and origin of the scale, and then we'll look at chords in the scale and see some typical progressions that work best. Now, after that we will look at how to improvise with the scale. Let's start. The Mixolydian Flat 6 scale is essentially a major scale with a flattened 6th and a flattened 7th degree. It contains 5 whole steps and 2 half steps. And when played up and down, it sounds like this. Now to understand where it comes from, let's first look at the regular Mixolydian scale. Now the Mixolydian scale is the 5th mode of a major scale, meaning that it starts on the 5th note of a major scale. Now compared to the regular major scale, it has a flattened 7th degree. And that single note already gives it a slightly darker and less stable character. Now the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale takes it one step further. The scale still has that flattened 7th, but on top of that it also flattens the 6th degree. So 2 lowered notes in a major scale. And that's where things start to get interesting. Now the characteristic notes of the scale are the major 3rd, the flat 6th and the flat 7th. Now those 3 notes create a unique combination that results in an amazing sound. Another remarkable feature is that the tonic is surrounded by whole steps on both sides. And that gives the scale a slightly floating quality, almost as if it wants to drift into the whole tone territory, but then changes its mind at the last second. Now the section of the scale that contains the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th and the minor 6th has a distinct exotic flavor because of the placement of the half steps. Now what makes this scale so powerful is the emotional contrast built into the structure of the scale. The lower half is essentially major and sounds bright and open and even optimistic. But the upper half tells a different story. There the flattened 6th and the flattened 7th introduce a darker, more minor character. And that is the magic of this Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. It lives between 2 worlds. Part of it is bright and sunny, and part of it is dark and rainy. It combines light and dark, major and minor. And that duality is exactly why I love it so much. Now one reason this scale sounds so exotic is that it also appears in Indian music. And there it's known as the raga Charukesh. Now let's look at another arbitrary name for this scale. The Aeolian mode is better known as the natural minor scale. It's one of the modes of the major scale and it has that melancholic sound that we all know from thousands of pop songs and rock songs. If we take an Aeolian scale and raise the minor 3rd C to the major 3rd C sharp, the tonic changed from a minor 7th chord to a dominant 7th chord. And that is exactly why the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale is sometimes called the Aeolian dominant scale. Now what I find much more interesting is the relation with the melodic minor scale. The Mixolydian Flat 6 scale is actually the 5th mode of the melodic minor scale. And that means if you take a C melodic minor scale and start it on the 5th note G, you get a G Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. So these 2 scales are closely related. In fact, you can think of them as conceptual mirror images of each other. The melodic minor scale starts as a minor scale and ends with a major 6th and major 7th, while the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale does the opposite. It starts like a major scale but ends with a minor 6th and a minor 7th. So, while the melodic minor scale begins in darkness and gradually moves towards the light, the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale begins in light and slowly drifts into the shadows. So two musical worlds hiding in the same scale. Now what is remarkable about the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale isn't just the scale itself. The harmony is pretty unusual too. In a regular major scale, we'll get a nice balance between 3 major chords and 3 minor chords. Everything feels organized and even a bit predictable. The Mixolydian Flat 6 scale, however, clearly had other ideas. Instead, it contains only 2 major chords and only 2 minor chords. And the remaining 3 chords are dissonant. Now we get 2 diminished chords and even 1 augmented chord. So right away, the harmonic landscape becomes much more colorful and much less predictable. Now let's hear all the triads of the scale played one after another. Is it happy? Yes. Is it sad? Yes. So that makes it pretty confusing, right? Now let's look at some chord progressions that really bring out the character of the scale. The best choices are the 2-5-1, the 4-5-1 and the 4-flat-7-1. The reason is simple. Together these chords contain all the notes that define the scale, revealing its unique sound. Now let's hear the 2-5-1 progression. And now the 4-5-1 progression. And finally the 4-flat-7-1 progression. Let's take things a step further and harmonize the scale using 7th chords. And the resulting chord collection is quite interesting. First of all, there isn't a single major 7th chord in the entire scale. Instead we get 2 dominant 7th chords, one built on the tonic and another one built on the 7th degree. And we also find 2 half diminished chords built on the 2nd and 3rd degree. And then we arrive at perhaps the most intriguing chord of the scale, the augmented major 7th chord. Now this chord somehow manages to sound dissonant and beautiful at the same time. It is the musical equivalent of a mean but beautiful woman. Let's listen to all of the 7th chords in the scale played in a sequence. Now so far we explored the theory and the harmony of the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. But theory is only half the story. The real question is, what can you actually do with it? Now in the next examples I'll show you how I use the harmony of the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale to create interesting chord progressions and interesting musical ideas. The first example is in a progressive style written in E Mixolydian Flat 6. Now my goal wasn't simply to play the available chords, instead I wanted to explore some of the characteristic colors that are hidden in the scale. Now rather than using the fully defined chords all the time, I started with the tonic E major and added the notes that give the scale its personality. The major 3rd G sharp, the minor 6th C and the minor 7th D. The first riff looks like this. Now the low and the high E strings establish the root of the E major chord. The G sharp on the 3rd string provides the major 3rd. And the notes on the 4th string, D and C, add the characteristic flat 7th and flat 6th colors. Together they create that unmistakable Mixolydian Flat 6 flavor. The second riff is even more interesting. Again I started from an E major sound, but this time I added the 11th A. The next chord uses the same basic idea, but in a different voicing. And incidentally, you could interpret this chord as an A minor major 7 chord over E. And now we arrive at one of my favorite chords in the progression that I mentioned before, the major 7 sharp 5 chord. Now this beautiful sound was famously used by guitarist and composer Steve Vai in his incredible, awesome and beautiful masterpiece, Little Pretty. Now we'll find 2 of these major 7 sharp 5 chords in this song that is written in the B flat Dorian sharp 4 mode. Watch my tutorial about this scale to learn more. These chords in Little Pretty sound like this. Back to our example. The major 7 sharp 5 chord in our example, is a C major 7 sharp 5 chord, and that sounds like this. And finally, we have reached the last chord in the progression, which is the same as the second chord, but this time over an A bass, and that transforms it into a proper A minor major 9 chord. And once we add the drums, the bass guitar and additional guitar layers, the result sounds like this. Now for the next example, I wanted to explore a completely different style. And this one is more like a modern pop song featuring acoustic guitar strumming and a melodic background lines. The progression is written in C Mixolydian Flat 6. Now for this progression I combined a C major chord with the G minor and F minor chord. And G minor contains the minor 7th of the scale, the B flat, and F minor contains the minor 6th of the scale, A flat. Now that contrast between the major tonic and the minor subdominant and minor dominant chord is one of the things that gives this progression its unique character. I also used a C major chord over B flat together with an A flat major 13 chord without a 5th. Those colors fit naturally within the harmonic world of the scale and add a rich quality to the sound. The chords together sound like this. And when we add bass, drums and the rest of the arrangement, the progression comes to life, like this. Now, have you noticed how the music never fully commits to being happy or sad? It constantly balances between the two. And that is exactly what makes this Mixolydian Flat 6 scale such a fascinating creative tool. So now that we have explored the theory, the harmony and some compositional ideas, it is time for the fun part, improvisation. Now, when improvising with the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale, there are essentially two approaches. Now the first one is to use the scale over a dominant 7th chord or a dominant altered chord within a progression in a certain key. The second approach is to use it over a Mixolydian Flat 6 progression where all the chords are derived from the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. Either way, you'll need at least one scale pattern under your fingers. Now fortunately, if you are already familiar with the melodic minor scale, then you're halfway there. Remember, the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale is simply the 5th mode of a melodic minor scale. So if you want to play the C Mixolydian Flat 6 scale, you can think of the F melodic minor starting from C. Now, if you're not yet comfortable with melodic minor patterns, then I recommend starting with these two patterns. One particular effective use of the Mixolydian Flat 6 scale is over a 5 chord in a 2-5-1 progression. In this example, we're in the key of C minor. Over the altered G7 sharp 5 chord, I use the G Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. The flat 6th is also the sharp 5th, and highlights the altered dominant sound while being connected to that harmony. It sounds like this. The next licks are played over a progression in C Mixolydian Flat 6, and I started off with introducing the Mixolydian Flat 6 sound by using the characteristic part of the scale, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th and the flat 6th. After that I played a slide lick that was played by Brett Vaughn, who is a great guitarist by the way, and it is built around slide patterns and uses a systematic descending fingering approach. The repeating movement creates a smooth and flowing line that naturally outlines the scale. And towards the end, I introduced a lick based on an A-flat major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio, which adds another distinctive color from the scale. Of course, scales are only part of the story. Arpeggios can be incredibly effective as well. In fact, arpeggios are one of the best ways to emphasize the unique character of a scale because they clearly outline specific chord colors. For this example, I selected arpeggios that contain the most characteristic notes of the C Mixolydian Flat 6 scale, and those are the E, A-flat and B-flat, the major 3rd, the flat 6th and the flat 7th. The phrase begins with a C major triad arpeggio, and from there it moves into a B-flat major triad arpeggio, followed by the E minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. The line finally resolves to the notes of an F minor major 7 arpeggio that introduces the A-flat for the first time, which gives the lick a dark and typical Mixolydian Flat 6 sound ending. Each of the sounds is strongly connected to the harmony of the C Mixolydian Flat 6 scale. And together they create a line that doesn't just run through the scale, but it actually reveals its personality. Now, I don't know what your conclusion is, but mine is that this is an absolute beautiful scale that evokes so many emotions because of its duality in major and minor. From mystical to unsettling to exotic, this scale can do it all. Now I suggest trying this out and make some beautiful music with it. And do check my ebook store, because in time there will be an ebook of this subject available for you to download. Now if you want to explore another great and amazing scale, then watch this tutorial. Now I want to thank you all for watching, and a very special thanks to my patrons that make it all possible for me to do this work. Thanks! And I see you next time.